Well, this is actually a really interesting and good story. And I didn't start off that way. I started off on the defense side, and I started off at a very good defense firm. I really enjoyed being in. And to this day, I think they're good people. But I had a case one time with a client when I was defending the client, and to this day, this has been maybe 28, 30 years and still bothers me. So there was a lady who, I'm going to look at the camera. There's a lady because she had inadvertently sawed her hand in half like this, working for this company. She was dusting some metal shavings away from a saw, caught the edge of her glove. Now, again, this is 30 years ago almost. And after her injury, what they did was they took some excess tissue off the back of her right arm and rebuilt her left hand. But to make that work, they sewed it into her stomach so that it would get blood flow. She comes back to work in 6 weeks with her hand sewed that way, sweeping with one hand. And eventually the company had worked out a settlement under the workers' compensation system with her. And they would work out like maybe 10 cases at a time. It's not a company anywhere in Madison County, by the way. It's farther away. But I was told I had to go down there and sit down with each person and explain their rights and explain what the settlement would mean. And then I'd have to at some point take them in front of an arbitrator. So I met this lady and I heard her story. And the amount of money they were offering her was as low as you could get away with. And then as I was talking to her, I realized that she had some serious psychological problems from this. She told me that occasionally she would catch herself at a stoplight and she would envision her hand getting cut off. And she would envision, waking up with her hand sewn into her abdomen. And she would find herself frozen. Like people would have to honk at her. And she said one night she was at a bar with her husband where they served like a steak night. And some drunk man came over to her and told her to cover her hand up because it was making out sick. She only had the few fingers. And then she had this extra tissue. And if you knew me, you would know that my response, had I been her husband, would have been memorable. But fortunately, he kept his grace and didn't respond because she asked him not to. But as I was talking to her, I realized, well, I'm going to take her in front of this arbitrator who I clerked for 2 years, and I know him. He's going to ask her these same questions. So when he sees the amount of money that we've offered her, and he knows the problem she continues to have, he is going to be unhappy. And I try to explain that to my client because I actually told her, before we settle this, you might need to get some counseling, because I knew the judge was going to ask. And the manager of the facility took me outside and chewed me out, asked me whose side I was on. And I said to him, I'll never forget this, his name was Paul. I said, Paul, if you are not going to take care of her, a lady who's been here for 20 years and sawed her hand in half, if you're not going to take care of her, who will you ever take care of? And I called my wife. This is when cell phones were really new in cars. They're in your physical car. You carry them around. I called my wife on the way home and I said, I hate this job. I hate doing it. I hate the way we treat people. And by the time I had gotten back, Paul had called my boss and I had been fired from that account, even though I'd never lost a case working for them. And my boss asked me what happened, and I explained the whole situation to him, and he said, don't worry about it. You did the right thing. But I had a good boss. But it was right then and there. I thought, if I have to choose a side, I'll choose a side where I get to decide who I represent, and I get to decide who needs the fight that I'm willing to give. And I switched sides, and I have never looked back.